you solo trucker here again. You like my new hat? Just got this about a week or two ago. I want to talk to you today, a real quick video. The sun's right here in my face, but I got to this service plaza last night, or yesterday afternoon actually, in New Jersey. I was on a load and I had dropped one load off up in Connecticut. I was almost in Massachusetts actually, and I managed to get there really early in the morning. It took them a very long time to unload me. It took them over 2 hours, which sometimes happens, but it's not the average. I find the average is about an hour and a half maybe. Some places are quicker, some places take longer. This place actually took a good while. So that kind of ate up my my 14-hour clock a little bit. So I've titled this video "Don't Get Too Attached to That Load," because in a case like this happened to me, I had to drive a little ways to get to the drop to start with, because it was a really long run. It was over 700 miles. So that's good, because I get good miles, and I'm starting my week, so that means I've got good miles right off the bat. That means I'm probably going to finish my week early, and it also means I'm going to get a maximized amount of mileage for the week. And as we know, when you're OTR, miles is everything. But anyway, it took them a long time to unload me, and on my way to New Jersey to pick up my back haul, I ran into a really bad traffic jam, which is nothing unusual for New Jersey. Come through the Bronx Expressway there on 95, and it was really backed up, really bad. There may have been an accident, or it may have just been normal. It usually is backed up pretty bad through there, but sometimes it's worse than others. If you can time it to get through that particular area at night, it's best to do that. My way in was a different route, because I came in from Pennsylvania, and this way out was going through Jersey to pick up my next load, so I had to go through that area. And sometimes you can't help that. Sometimes a company's going to make you go through a certain direction, and sometimes they'll give you some leeway, and if you're on your own, you can pick your own routes. But anyway, I got stuck in the traffic jam. It took them longer than usual time to unload me, which kind of killed my 14-hour clock a little bit earlier than expected. So I got down to this service plaza in the afternoon. I don't know, it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I parked. I only had like 2 hours and a little bit of change left on my clock, and I was still like 45 minutes, and 45 minutes in the turnpike in this area can turn into an hour and a half real easily, like it did on that traffic jam. So I got into this rest stop, the first one I came to after I got out of that traffic jam. I parked and called my dispatch to verify if it was a live load or a drop and hook, because there was some place close by from the shipper that I could have parked, but the shipper didn't allow me to park, which I didn't know at that time until I called in. So I called in, and I said, "Is this a drop and hook or is it a live load?" He said, "No, it's a live load." And he said, "You can't park there either." He said, "There's a Walmart right down the street." I said, "Well, I'm down to about 2 hours, and by the time I get there, I'll be down to less than an hour, so I will be stuck there if I go. Are they open 24/7?" He said, "No, they don't open until the morning." So he says, "Well, let me call customer service and see if they will let us come in the morning to pick it up, or we might shuffle you to a different load or something like that." So I just stayed in my parking space, because parking spaces are golden up here in this area, especially when it was 3 o'clock, getting 3-4 o'clock by then. That is the reason why I stopped and called, because I knew if I'd have kept going, it would have been, even later, and I would have had a harder time trying to find a place to park. And I needed to know if this shipper was going to be open when I got there, if they were going to let me park, if I could go ahead and park and then come in the morning, or if they were open 24/7. So he gets back with me, and he's like, I'm going to go ahead and void you off this dispatch. And they put me on a different load that picked up after I could do a 10-hour break. So this type of thing, it doesn't happen too often. I've been driving for about 5 years, and it's happened maybe a couple of dozen times, maybe. Most of the time, you're going to be there on time, on your time, as long as you do your routes good. But occasionally, things like that will happen to where you can't. See my hat up there. To where you can't, you got no power over something like that happening, a traffic jam accident or whatever. You just have no control over that. Sometimes, and when that happens, sometimes the shipper or the receiver, if it's a receiver, you're just going to have to sit on the load. But if it's a shipper, like what happened to me yesterday afternoon, you just have to see if you can go in later after you do a break, or if they're going to send another truck that a driver might have more hours than you to go pick it up. Or sometimes they'll farm it out to different companies, because a lot of the big companies will have their own load board to where they could get independents or their owner operators to come in and fill in spaces. So that's just another example of something that can happen. I've talked before about different things happening, changes in where you take a trailer, changes where you pick up a trailer, where you drop a trailer, where you might go at any time. And this is just another instance that you can run into, and it's really a no-brainer. You just have to look at your hours, keep a close look at your hours, and know where you're going to have to go to either pick up your load or drop your load, and keep your company, if you're a company driver, keep them abreast of what's going on. Like what happened to me, I'm like, I only got 2 hours, And you also, when you're down to your 14-hour clock is all you got left, and it's low like that. I was only on my 14, so all I had left. My 11 was gone, it wasn't gone, but it still had plenty of hours on it. But my 14 only had like 2 hours on it, a little over 2 hours. Like I said, 2 hours and change. But it doesn't matter. After that 14 gets to that point, you got to look at the 14. Forget about the 11. Forget about the 8. No matter what's left on it, because the 14 is the master clock, you might say. And when it gets down that low, you don't say, well, I've got 2 hours. It's only 45 minutes or 30 minutes to where I'm going. I'll go ahead and go. You can't do that. You have to figure in loading time. You have to figure in, if it's just drop and hook, you have to figure in you're gonna burn especially if it's a big DC, you're gonna burn 15-20 minutes just driving around the place finding your trailer. If it's really big, sometimes you'll get it out of there real quick. But most of the time, if it's a big DC or a big factory or wherever you're delivering at, you could spend an hour just getting in and out, doing a drop and hook, because some facilities will have a lot more security involved, where you have to jump through a bunch of hoops. You might have people in front of you. You might have 5 trucks in front of you. They may have to get to them first. So when you get down that low, that was the reason why I pretty much knew that I was going to be going ahead and parking and waiting until I did a 10-hour break, at least that much, because my 14-hour clock has only got 2 hours and some change left in it. I'm not going to be able to get far. I can't count all of that time. You got to get parked. You got to do a post trip. So you have to think of all those variables. Don't just say, when you get down to your 14-hour clock like that, don't just say, Well, I still got, this amount of time on 14. No, you can't do that. You got to say, well, I'm down to 2 hours on my 14. I need to go ahead and park now. If there's any question. Now, if you've already got your load and you're out there on the road driving and you're down to 2 hours, you can say, okay, well, I got 2 hours. I can drive for another hour, another hour and a half. But don't let that clock burn all the way down, and don't get too attached to that load that you have or the load that you're going to go get. That's all for now. WW Solo Trucker.